Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to another position breakdown. Okay, we've done three positions already. We've done the cornerbacks, we've done the safeties, we've done the linebackers. Now we're going to move to the defensive line and to the defensive ends. In previous videos, Steve and I have talked about how the defensive end positions were a position we were worried about. We have made some key off-season acquisitions, which might help us out in the long run. But other than that, we haven't really done much with the defensive end position. A lot of people are saying that our defensive end position is probably one of the weaker ones in the NFL. Um, I was thinking more middle roadish. I don't know if we're weak, but we'll see. I think there are a couple players we're getting back that might improve that, and like I said, some signings might improve that as well, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the list of current defensive ends that we have on our roster. We currently have 8. And then going using 2017's roster breakdown, we had 4 defensive ends that we had on our 53-man active roster. This one, as I was looking through it, seems a bit easier to figure out. Maybe that 4th spot might be a little tricky as far as how many we're keeping. To be honest, I think there's a possibility. I talked in a previous episode how we might only keep 5 linebackers instead of 6. There's a possibility that instead of 4 defensive ends, we keep 5. That's why I think there might be a little difference. But I'm just simply going to use what the Bills did last year in 2017, which was they had 4 defensive ends on the active roster. So I'm going to go through this list. I'm going to say the 4 guys I think are going to make the team, and then I'm going to grade where the Bills stand as far as defensive end goes compared to other positions and other teams in the NFL. So first, we want to start with Matt Boesen. This is going to be his rookie years from TCU. He was an undrafted free agent, which is a little surprising. Had 11.5 sacks last year for TCU, but the issue is he's just undersized. Okay, so some scouts think he overperformed. Some scouts say he worked hard to earn that 11.5 sacks. But it was definitely his best year last year. 11.5 sacks, hard to top that. I'm actually really glad that we were able to get him as undrafted free agent. I remember when Steve was here, we talked about him on our undrafted free agent show, and we were both pretty happy. I mean, 11.5 sacks, that's impressive. No matter where you play, no matter size, 11.5 sacks, that's pretty impressive. But he looks like he'll mostly be a special teams guy if he makes the team. But again, working with special teams, that's something that we would like to see, because then you have a little versatility there, and I say versatility a lot because that's very important to Sean McDermott, so it should be important to us as Bills fans. Something we should look into when we're looking at other players and see what they have to offer. Boesen is listed as probably on the bottom of the depth chart currently, but I wouldn't mind seeing giving him a chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, 11.5 sacks. You can't just sleep on that. It's not like our defensive end position is like shockingly great, where we don't have room to put him on our team. Again, this would be a great time to use like maybe a 5th slot and say, hey, let's give this guy a chance here, see what he does. Maybe put him in as a special teams role, and then if he needs to come in as a defensive end here and there, we can do that. But then moving down the list, we have a Terrence Fetty. Was drafted by the Miami Dolphins, I believe, in 2014. This is going to be his 5th year. He signed with us April 4th. But again, this is one of the guys that's kind of on the bottom of the depth chart. He really hasn't done much in his professional career. He has 1 sack, which was his rookie season back in 2014. I believe he had like 15 tackles last year for Miami. Probably didn't see the field as much as some of the other guys on that defensive line. I think about Miami's defensive line last year. I think it was like Cameron Wake, Ndamukong Suh. They had bigger names on there. So Fetty probably didn't get as much of a start as some of those other guys. Next on the list is Jerry Hughes. Many of us know him. Jerry Hughes has been on the Bills for a little bit now. He's from TCU. This is going to be his 9th season. Jerry Hughes has kind of dipped down, back in, 13, 14, back with Jim Schwartz when they used the 4-3. He had 9.5 sacks both years, those years. And then Rex Ryan came, completely blew it up. Jerry Hughes did not work well in the 3-4. That was obvious from day one. But so last year, somehow he was excited to move back to the 4-3. Well, last year he only had, I think, 4 sacks, something of that nature. Let me see. Yeah, 4 sacks. So we need to see him get back to the form of 2014, 2015, or 2013, 2014, whichever one that was. 2013, 2014. We need to see him get back to that. We need to see him get pressure on the quarterback. But you also have to ask yourself: is that on Jerry Hughes, or is that because we don't have we don't have anyone on the other side who's really scary? Who can take that double team off of Hughes. Last year Eddie Yarborough who's still on our team as well. We'll talk to you about him too, but he was the main guy across Jerry Hughes. And it was his rookie year last year. He didn't really strike fear into many players, into many offensive lines, so they really focused on Jerry Hughes. So getting to the quarterback was a little bit more of an issue last year. Next on the list is a guy who when we drafted him, Shaq Lawson. We drafted him. I really liked him. I was really looking forward to seeing him play. Injuries have kind of plagued his career so far. This is going to be his third season. But going into minicamp, everyone was talking about how he had this positive attitude. He lost weight. He looked good. And he was ready to get in there and start training and everything. And everything was sounding so positive. But then, I think it was June 20th, Mike Rodak, ESPN Buffalo Bills reporter, who most of us don't like, but he reported that he sees Shaq Lawson as having a hard time making the 53-man roster and possibly even being traded before the season started. I really hope that doesn't happen. I really want to see what Shaq Lawson can do. I mean, it's unfortunate the injury situation, but I really want to see what he could do. This is definitely, if he's with the Bills this year still, this is definitely a prove it year, right? You can't just keep blaming injuries for lack of production. And sooner or later, if you just get hurt every year, we're going to know you're made of glass and not re-sign you when your rookie contract's up, and maybe even try to release you a year early too. So this is definitely a make it year for him. I don't know if he's gonna be on the team. I'll reveal that at the end. I really don't, but I really hope he does. I mean, that would be great because I think he has a lot to offer on the other side of Jerry Hughes, and that would be a big step in the right direction to help our defensive end unit. Next on the list, we have Mike Love. Many of you have heard the name Mike Love, but he is not the Beach Boy. This Mike Love is not the guy who plays on the Beach Boys. But he's from South Florida. This is going to be his rookie year as well. The issue with Mike Love is in his 4 years in South Florida, he's had 3 surgeries. Both of his knees have had surgery, and he had a broken foot as well. So that really tarnishes what his stats look like. As far as career at South Florida. So we picked him up as an undrafted free agent, and we're giving him a try with the Buffalo Bills. So wish him the best of luck. He did have 5.5 sacks last season and 11 tackles for a loss. So that's impressive, and we hope that maybe we can see some improvement. But those injuries do have to worry you a little bit because we don't know how long the knees will last, how long these surgeries will do, and how long before we'll need another one. So we want to make sure that he is capable of playing a full season because we all know how long the season is and how big of a grind it is. So we want to make sure could be healthy for the full season, so that way he can be a part of helping the Bills here on the defensive end side. Trent Murphy, a lot of you saw our video on when we got Trent Murphy. Big signing for us in the offseason, at least I think so. He is coming off an ACL surgery, so we don't know how that's going to affect him. But back in 2016, he did have 8 sacks with Washington, so that's something that we can look forward to, and hopefully he brings that this year as well. I do believe he was also suspended for some sort of from drug usage, so we kind of hope he doesn't do that again, right? And we hope that it was physical talent and not the drugs that helped them get to those 8 sacks, even though the 8 sacks were definitely higher than the previous years. So we do have to wonder about that. But Trent Murphy from the Redskins came to the Bills. We can play him in the defensive end position. So maybe playing back at linebacker every once in a while. But since we're a 4-3, I think it will be more of a defensive end guy. But we'll see. But the fact that he can play linebacker does help him as far as making the team. I don't believe we would sign someone to a 3-year, $21 million contract in the offseason if he wasn't going to make the team. So I do believe that he is safely secure on the 53-man roster. But anything can happen, and we don't know he might unfortunately, get injured again, and in that case, then he would have to be on the injured reserve list or something of that nature. Next down the list, I'm going to mess up this name. He was pickup from the Giants, free agent pickup from the Giants. It was Owa Adigazua. This is his 4th year from UCLA. He signed a 1-year deal in the offseason, but everyone's thinking that he has a long shot to make the roster. You look at his career at the Giants, didn't really do too much. We actually did talk about that. Steve and I did in another video about when we signed him, because here on Believer Stock, we keep you updated on every single signing. So if you're interested, please be sure to subscribe, because that's what we're going to do here. Every signing, even the small ones, even this Awa Adigazua, we'll keep you up to date on him. But they're saying it's a long shot that he will make the roster. So we'll see what happens. He'll be there at training camp, probably be there for the preseason. He has room to impress the coaching staff there. And then last on the list is Eddie Yarbrough. He played last year. Last year was his rookie year. This is his 2nd year from Wyoming. Last year he had 34 tackles and a sack. He came in training camp as an undrafted free agent. But this year in training camp, he's actually working with the first team defense. So he's showing improvement to the coaches, at least during minicamp he did. So we'll see how the depth chart looks when training camp starts next week, and see where he's at with that, because he should really be trading time with Shaq Lawson. I feel like we should really be seeing what Shaq Lawson can offer us. I don't think we should just think about trading him or releasing him so soon in his career. I think he has a lot more to prove. And like I said, at the beginning of minicamp, everyone was so excited about Shaq Lawson. They talked about how he was losing weight, how he had a much better positive attitude. So I do hope that we get to see more from Shaq Lawson. So those are the 8 guys that I see that we currently have on roster as far as defensive end. Like I said, in 2017, we had 4 defensive ends, and I truly think we should go to 5 and remove a position, remove a roster spot from another position. But going off those 4, I don't think the first 3 are that hard. I think it's going to be Jerry Hughes, Eddie Yarbrough, and Trent Murphy, right? I think those 3 are going to be easily said to be, yes, they're in. It's that 4th guy that kind of gets me problems. Like I look at Matt Boesen, again, 11.5 sacks, so you can't just ignore that. And so I would really like to see how he does in training camp, see maybe how he does in a couple preseason games, because he is undersized, and you can get away with that a lot more in college than you can in the pros, right? In college, especially TCU, because in the Big 12 they play Big 12, Pac-12, forget the count. They play like a spread offense, right? They're throwing the ball all the time, and so it might be a little bit easier to get in on the quarterback, get those sacks. But still, you want to give him a chance to see what he has. But between him and Shaq Lawson, I truly, and this might be a want pick more than what I think will actually happen. But Shaq Lawson, again, I just think he has more to prove, and I would love to see him as a Bill for at least one more season, so that way we can see what he has. So my 4 defensive ends that we are going to carry over from training camp and from preseason onto the 53-man roster would be Jerry Hughes, Shaq Lawson, Trent Murphy, and Eddie Yarbrough. Again, I would like to see that 5th, and if we get that 5th, I would like to see Matt Boesen be given a real shot. Matt Boesen is definitely someone I'm going to be keeping my eye on in training camp and as the preseason starts, because I just want to see how he does against the oversized, bigger offensive linemen, and see how he comes across that edge, because maybe he has a speed advantage. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't see him too much, but I do look forward to seeing him. These other guys I don't think have much of a shot, other than maybe Owa. He might have a good chance to get on the team. He does have that experience edge to get on the team. And our defensive ends, let's be honest, our defensive ends are not that great, unless Shaq Lawson does better than, and I hope he does, unless Shaq Lawson does better than what experts think he's going to do. Our defensive end is not like our best position at defense. Now, in saying that, I do believe that Trent Murphy does help the defensive end position, and he's going to give Jerry Hughes a better opportunity to get to the quarterback. And so with them 2 on both sides, maybe that will help us out a little bit. and make our defensive ends look better. Luckily, we have a secondary with our corners and safeties who can kind of cover that, and we have really good linebackers as well who kind of make up for the lack of depth at defensive end. I do believe between defensive end and defensive tackle, probably some sacks at least that were coverage sacks last year. Just because our secondary is that good. And I do see that happening again this year. I don't see our secondary taking a step back. I actually see them improving with Vontae Davis coming in. I think that's a great signing, and Philip Gaines. I think that's going to be great. So I really look forward to that. But as far as defensive ends go, those are the 4 I see out of the 8. If you think one of these guys that I mentioned should be on the team, or you think Matt Boson would be above Shaq Lawson, let me know in the comment section. I'll happily discuss that with you, see why, what I have to say. Maybe we have a couple TCU fans out there watching. So, but that's pretty much it for the defensive ends. I would say as far as a grade goes, where we sit as far as other teams in the NFL, I would honestly say probably maybe a C-, D+, C-. Again, we aren't proven. I want to be a Bills fan and say, hey, our defense is going to be great, and I do think our defense is going to be great. I have even said on this show that I believe we will have a top 10 defense this year. But I don't think defensive end is where our strength is. I believe our strength is actually in our secondary and our linebacking core. Which we did videos on those. So if you haven't checked those out, check them out. But yeah, I would say probably a D+, C-. Let me know if you disagree. I mean, as Bills fans, we want to be optimistic. So I'm sure a lot of you want to be optimistic and say Shaq Lawson's going to come out like a baller, and all of a sudden we go from a C- to a C+ or B-. Who knows? But that'll definitely improve our defense, and I want to see that. I just don't see it on paper. So I'm going with a D+, C-, and that's it. So that's our defensive end position breakdown. Again, keep watching because we're going to keep you posted. We're going to keep doing this position breakdown. We're going to do defensive tackles next, and then we move on to the offensive side of the ball. We all know I'm excited to do defensive tackles because my favorite player, Kyle Williams, a lot of your favorite players too, I'm sure. But he's a defensive tackle, so I look forward to doing that breakdown. But then we move on to the offensive side of the ball, and things start to get a little more interesting. But we will have all the breakdowns here for you before Thursday, start training camp. And once training camp starts, we will be here giving you constant updates. So if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe to Believers Talk. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. But till next time, go Bills.